Hey everybody, it's Trags alongside Jimmy Murphy inside TD Garden. We're looking ahead to game number 6 here on Monday night in Toronto. The Boston Bruins lose game number 5, surprisingly, 4-3. The top line, after having so much success, everybody talked about David Pastrnak, and deservedly so, with his 6-point game in game number 2, 9 points in the first 2 games. That top line has been struggling. Patrice Bergeron, who's dinged up, David Pastrnak, and Brad Marchand. How do you get them going in Game 6, Murph?
Yeah, I mean, we know that Brad Marchand and Pastrnak stepped up when Bergeron was out, as did David Krejci, and that's going to lead to my point here. But when Bergeron and Marchand and Pastrnak have been together in the last 2 games they were together as a trio, they've been held pointless and just really struggling there. Brad Marchand specifically in Game 5, I thought, had his worst game of the playoffs so far. But how do they do it? Well, they got to just keep going out and doing what they do best, and however they do that, they got to apply it. But I'm more worried about the way when they don't do well, it seems like the rest of the team sort of fails as well. And I think they need their depth players, specifically Mr. Playoffs, David Krejci, to step up like he did in Game 4. He's going to need to be huge in Game 6, because if Bergeron, who I think is still going to be hurting, if he's having a bad game again, David Krejci needs to be the man and lead the pack.
After game number 5, Bruce Cassidy said that he expects Patrice Bergeron, who made it through, in his words, game number 5, to be ready for game number 6.
Yeah, I don't think that will be a question. And should it go 7, which unfortunately Bruins fans, I think it will. If it goes 7, I think he'll be ready for that too. I mean, let's face it, he had to be really hurting, because we know what he did in that 2013 Cup run, or when they lost to the Blackhawks. He played with broken ribs, a punctured lung. I mean, this guy's going to go in with a bullet in his head, for crying out loud, if you let him. But they wouldn't let him, and he made note of that on Saturday before the game, saying the training staff had to hold me back. So I think he'll be in there. They know they want to clinch this. They don't want this to come back to a Game 7. Even if they get their home crowd, they don't want it, because anything can happen in a Game 7, as we've seen so many times in so many sports.
Okay, I'm going to bring up 2 issues here. The kiddie core, the young players who need to contribute in a game number 6 on the road, and Rick Nash.
Yeah, let's start with the kids there. I think they froze a bit. I'm not going to say they choked. I think that's too strong a word. But I think they froze there under the pressure of having an opportunity to clinch a series. And I think maybe, you know what, they've showed this throughout the season. They do absorb really well, and they do tend to come back the next game and succeed and take the lessons learned. I think we'll see that in Game 6. Rick Nash, another one. I don't know whether to criticize this guy or to feel for him. I mean, how many posts has he hit?
Yeah, a lot.
You know?
And crossbars,
yeah,
which he hit on Game 5.
And that's not to take anything away from Freddie Anderson, who was spectacular for the Leafs, but Rick Nash is just hitting every post there. And you know what? He's one of those guys who kind of has that rep, like Joe Thornton back in the day, that he can't deliver in the playoffs. And by the way, they're former roommates and best friends. But he's going to need to put that behind him. He's going to need to battle mentally. We know he's got the skills. We know he's got the physicality. He needs to battle mentally and push through for the Bruins to bring this home with a series under their belt, as opposed to for a Game 7.
And one more thing. How do the Bruins get the Toronto Maple Leafs on home ice this time to take as many stupid, undisciplined penalties as the Maple Leafs did in Game 5?
I don't know. And, you know, Mike Babcock was not happy with that. I mean, he was kind of taking more jab at the refs there, and he made a joke where he said, you know, half our guys were freezing, half our guys were dying, but they got through it, you know, and I think that's a good sign for them. You wonder, okay, they're going to think they can do it again? No, he's going to make sure they won't, but the Bruins will definitely be trying to bait him, and that's where maybe Brad Marchand comes in. If Brad Marchand can't score, well, then you know what? Go back to being the agitator. Don't do anything stupid, but make yourself valuable. Get them in the box again.
And get in front of the net. We will have you completely covered for Game 6 here on CLNSmedia.com. My man Murph, follow him on Twitter at Murphy's Law 74. Follow me on Twitter at Trags. And of course, we would be remiss, Murph, if we didn't mention the fact that you should be following all Bruins coverage at Bruins CLNS on Twitter. Inside TD Garden, he is Jimmy Murphy. I'm Mike Petralia, CLNS Media.